Welcome back to Tea Time. Everyone's unmuted.
No,
Tea Time with Matt, Jimmy, and Nolan.
Woo.
Today's
Where
a
were you
very,
at? I don't know. I forgot my cue.
Today is a very special episode because for the first time since episode 2, we got the whole gang here.
Wow, that's true. We went through a lot of different ups and downs there.
Yeah.
I think sickness both times.
Yeah.
Both other times. But
There was that one episode where it was just me because I was rushing a class assignment. A lot of lore to unpack.
yeah.
Yeah. So today we got a very special guest. We got Dr. David Castleberry from the School of Music. Would you like to tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Oh gosh, I don't know what to tell you except I have been teaching at Marshall since 1990, 35 years, and this is my last semester. I'll be retiring from Marshall at the end of the current semester. So I've been director of choral activities and directed the chamber choir. I served as associate dean for 14 years, and at one time I directed the university chorus and the choral union. Since I've come back to the faculty, I do the chamber choir, I teach voice, teach conducting, and otherwise just cause trouble.
So how does it feel retiring after all these years?
It's a little bit weird, but it's not like I'm completely retiring because I also direct the West Virginia Symphony Chorus, and I will continue to do that, hopefully sometimes with input from Marshall singers. I also direct a church choir, so in a way I'm just going from 3 jobs down to 2. But I have taught for 42 years in all, and so I'm looking forward to some new adventures and maybe a bit more free time. So
Yeah. Look for that.
we've had some real high points, and all of you were part of one of those high points last spring. Trip to Paris and a wonderful concert tour that we had. This fall we did a production of Mendelssohn's Elijah, major oratorio with the Huntington Symphony. Chamber choir sang in that as well as the Huntington Symphony Chorus. So we've had some really exciting experiences just recently and over the years, too many to enumerate. So.
Yeah. No, we really, you are ending on a high note, I will say.
Yeah,
Just
it hasn't slowed down to a crawl or anything like that.
No. Going out on a high C.
Yeah. But I've really enjoyed the students more than anything else, and the chance to get to know so many great people and work with so many great people, and my colleagues in the music department and throughout the college. And during my time as associate dean, not only was I interacting with music students, but also students from art and theater. So that was great too. And I have a feeling that over the coming days, once I stop my teaching, that I'll have a lot of time to reflect on some of the high points. And I like to write. I might write some of it down.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the David Castleberry memoirs. Memoirs from a musical life or something like that. I don't know.
I have had some.
I'd be buying a
some
copy.
students who said I should do some kind of podcast. So
With how many stories?
With the connections you have in the music community, I think it'd be a highlight, honestly.
well, somebody will have
The
to get me up to
passion
speed
and-
because when Don Van Horn was dean of the College of Arts and Media, he used to say that he operated with a stone and chisel. You know, he was a sculptor. Well, I'm not far removed from that, so technology and all of that is sort of outside my expertise. But
Ian will help you out.
Ian
Ian will
my
get you
son.
on that. Yeah.
Consider this the beginning.
Right.
Yeah. We're soft launching the Dr. Castleberry podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, just like with how many stories you tell, I genuinely feel like you have the perfect basis for at least just some little audio project. Just like each episode's a different story from your life.
Yeah.
Well, you know, a while back, and maybe this just is a reflection of this stage in my career, but a while back I started thinking about things I would like to write, because I've always been a writer. I've written a lot of stuff, but I haven't written much in the way of what one would call biographical or a memoir or anything like that. And frankly, the prospect of that is not appealing to me. But I did start just thinking about cool experiences I've had and writing some of those down, like 500 to 1,000 words. And over the last 18 months or 2 years, those have begun to accumulate. So if I needed to trot out stories, I've got plenty of them.
Heck yeah. No, that's so neat. I've
Well,
always
it's
wanted to try
sort
and do
of
that
like
myself. But
snapshots, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and I would encourage other people to do that too, because it doesn't have to be great writing. Just getting down some of those memories while they're fresh, or while you still can remember names. And
Yeah.
I mean, one of the ones I wrote just the other week dated back, 40-something years ago, but I still remembered all the names and was able to recreate it. So
Yeah.
I think that's kind of I think you kind of get a new perspective if you revisit early experiences from your college days or from any time in your life,
Yeah.
and framing it through the lens of something current. Just articulating that verbally or in writing, I think, gives you a different take on it.
Yeah. My dog's getting old, and I've been jogging my mind with memories as much as I can, and it really makes me want to actually write them down.
Yeah.
Just things that I'll have.
You
know,
really
after,
ought to.
and That's it's a real perspective.
There is something nice about, and I think that's why I love podcasting and news so much. It's just there's something very fun about going out and just learning about stuff and just having some piece of material to look back on, and even just like help you understand why was that my perspective all the way back then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could see that a lot with reporting. I mean, especially maybe how you were feeling in the moment, if it was a new story to cover.
Well, not knowing where our conversation would go today, I was thinking this morning about some of my experiences at Marshall and some of the changes that I've seen over 35 years. And one of those is that when I arrived in Huntington in 1990, we had just gotten dial-up internet, okay?
Oh, yeah.
There were no
Oh,
cell
yeah.
phones. It was the change that cell phones and internet have wrought are just extraordinary, and it makes me sound old just to say that, but it's really incredible. We did a choir tour like my third year at Marshall, where we caravanned with 5 vehicles. We had several vans and a couple of cars, and we caravanned down to Charleston, South Carolina to sing as part of the Spoleto Music Festival. And here's a reality check. One of the vans passed me, and somebody had made a sign that they held up in the back of the van that said restroom, because they needed to stop at a rest area. That was the sophisticated,
text.
communication of the time. That was the only way you could let people know.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm on a choir tour and I say, "Does anybody know where Jimmy is?" 14 phones come out and they pinpoint you. You know, it's a different world.
Still in the alley playing lute.
Right. Yeah.
Oh no, I still remember walking around France, specifically the days we were touring Paris, and just like we'd all be in a group, and you're using him as an example, but it makes it even better when you realize you were going on so many side quests.
Oh yeah.
Finding Matt's phone.
Help it.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a good one. Yeah. Gosh.
Left his phone out by Notre Dame.
Right
And
in the square.
Did somebody call your phone to find out where it was? Was that how that happened?
So
It was Jimmy, wasn't it?
I think
Oh,
we
yeah.
called, and
Yeah.
I think it was like a man and his daughter, like his young daughter was just like had seen it or something. I don't know if they gave it to the group or not. That's why I can't remember.
I think he waited. I think he
did.
picked it up and answered, and bless this man.
Yeah.
He waited there for you guys to go back and retrieve it. you
yeah,
know?
and he called my mom too because
Oh, yeah.
obviously she's like my emergency contact,
Uh-huh.
and so he like found the phone number and called my mom and was saying like your son's left his phone here or whatever. So I got a phone call from her like right after I retrieved my phone, and yeah, so that was fun.
Yeah.
Definitely a highlight of the trip.
Yeah.
Um,
One of many side quests for sure.
Oh, yeah.
What was ours? We went out
Man, you
to
went-
find you something at Subway, I think, at one of our dinners. I think that's where we
No,
conceived
no.
this
What happened
podcast,
was,
but I'm not totally
I was
sure.
really sick.
Yeah.
And me and you ran, it was either I think we were looking for a convenience store. We ran to a Subway just because I was like dying, just because of like how sick I was feeling. I just needed a bottle of water.
Yeah, just a little hydration. Yeah, because we were like waiting, I think, for
Yeah.
a reservation at the restaurant.
No,
or
we were
something.
running because we had just ended dinner. I remember
Oh,
we had
okay,
just
that's
ended
after.
dinner. Me and you ran ahead of everyone while everyone was gathering up, and then we just like met up with them at the bus.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway,
Yeah.
some very fun ones in there. I was gonna ask. So it's 1990. You arrived in Huntington.
Yep.
What happened next after like what was your position coming into Marshall and everything at that point?
Well, before coming to Marshall, I had been working and teaching in New York City.
Mm.
I directed the choir at Wagner College, which was a small private college. And I also directed the Riverside Choral Society in New York City. And Barbara and I just got married and had taken the choir up there on a tour to Germany and Austria and Italy, and got back, and I had been applying for jobs, and I got back to find that I was invited for an interview at Marshall. So I came down, did the interview, liked the job, liked the region, and so we accepted and moved down. And I was an assistant professor at the time, but I came in as director of choral activities.
Oh, wow.
So at
Okay.
that time, I was hired to direct the chamber choir, university chorus, and choral union.
Yeah, that's
I directed all three of those choirs in addition to doing some other teaching. So I was very busy,
yeah. You can
and
imagine.
it was great. And then, like within a year, I started directing a choir over in Charleston as well. So I was stayed very busy.
Yeah.
And let's see, after about 20 years, I became the associate dean for the college, and that changed my position quite a bit. So the deal breaker for me was I said, absolutely, I'm not interested in being associate dean if I can't keep conducting chamber choir.
Yeah.
So that was my teaching load while I was associate dean, was basically chamber choir. A year ago, I went back to faculty, and at that point, then I started teaching some voice students and teaching a bit of conducting as well.
Oh.
So,
Yeah.
and
Amazing.
somewhere along the way, then I started doing the West Virginia Symphony Chorus, and
Is
been a
Is that choir that was in Charleston? Did
Yeah.
that kind of morph into that West Virginia
well,
Symphony Chorus,
not the
or-
group that I did initially,
Okay.
but
Okay.
but I've been doing the symphony chorus now for 15 years. So,
Wow.
and a church choir.
Yeah.
So.
What's the, it's a tough question because you've probably gone through a lot of works, had a lot of great moments, but what is one that always stands out to you, always, as far as a production of a work,
Yeah.
a major work?
I hate that question because there are so many high points
I know.
I can think
I know.
of. And it kind of divides in two. It divides between big works that were with the orchestra and chorus, like I did a Bach St. John Passion that was a real high point. I did a Verdi Requiem that was a high point. There have been a lot of those. The Fauré Requiem, something I love very much. With the chamber choir, I've had so many high points, whether it was this recent concert, we finished up with several pieces that have been very close to me over the years. One's a piece called The Ballad of William Sycamore, that's kind of a picture of Americana and early settlers of the country, and just a lovely piece. Another piece we did, a setting of poetry by Langston Hughes called Sea Charm, that very affecting pieces. When we've gone on tours, these international tours that the chamber choir has made have almost by necessity been music that was a cappella, because you never know when you'll have keyboards available or when you won't. And so the programs I built for those tours started with Renaissance music and made their way up through the 20th century, and were chosen partly knowing some of the spaces that we would be singing in. So some of these grand cathedrals, that have 5-6 seconds of echo when you sing. It's fun to pick out pieces that you know are going to sound great in those
Oh yeah.
spaces. So it's hard for me to narrow that list of favorite pieces.
Yeah.
It kind of whatever I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
Because I pick
I love
when
that.
I pick music to conduct with an ensemble, I pick things that I know I will enjoy. Because if I don't enjoy it, I'm not going to be able to sustain the creative energy over the time it takes to teach that. So everything I do, I love.
Yeah. Yeah,
Pretty much everything.
it has a trickle down effect.
Yeah, right.
As one of your choristers, I think Matthew and
Yeah.
Nolan, we can all attest.
Matthew,
there is plenty of
you know,
passion.
We've got guitarists here in the room.
Yeah.
Several years ago, when we went to Spain,
Yeah,
back in
yeah.
2016, we did a set of pieces for choir and guitar by Castelnuovo Tedesco.
Beautiful.
And wonderful pieces,
Yeah.
and in Spanish. And
Yeah.
Those were real hits with the Spanish audience, too.
Oh my gosh, it was so nice to have Julio on that, Dr. Alves on that trip
Yeah,
with us.
yeah. He was great to have along.
Oh yeah,
So.
yeah. Helped a little bit with the translations too.
A bit, yes.
Portuguese to Spanish helped.
Right.
But no, that was actually in my tenure of being in chamber choir, I think that was one of my favorite.
Mm.
Also being a guitarist, maybe a little
Right.
bit biased, but
Yeah.
just the unique nature of the work and the collaboration.
I don't
That was
think-
very unique.
Yeah, and I don't think you were with us when we did another project with Dr. Alves, but pieces on poetry of Walt Whitman.
I
And
don't
those
think so.
those were wonderful also by an American composer named Jeffrey Van. And we took those on tour also.
Look that up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna listen to that.
I've got a recording somewhere of our performance of those. You'll have to hear that.
We'll have to swap.
Yeah, right.
So at this point, while we got a lull in the conversation, we're gonna start pouring out the teas.
Yeah, so this is part of the tradition of the show.
I
Is we
see.
rate we have certain teas for the day. Matt, you brought the teas for the day?
Yeah, I brought.
You want to introduce them?
Yeah, sure. Just grab
We got-
whichever one, I guess.
We got a
of
few
them.
returners. We got all sorts here.
All right.
That's one of my favorites right there. That's what I'm drinking,
The Paris?
actually. Paris.
All right.
Sounds like a
Harney
plan.
and Sons Paris tea. It's wonderful stuff.
It's really nice. I like that.
I'm trying to remember, did we?
Sounds like a
Because
nice
I
black
remember
tea.
these two. Did we try these two last?
I think we
I think
tried
this
all
is
of
the
these.
only one me
Or-
and you haven't tried.
What do you have there?
This is chamomile, honey chamomile. So
Do
that one, I like this one the
Yeah.
most personally. The honey chamomile.
Do we want to just each take a box and read it?
Yeah.
Okay,
sure.
yeah. Matt, you want to go first?
Yeah, so let me just read the back of this. Ingredients: organic apple pieces, organic chamomile flowers, organic ashwagandha root, organic lemon balm, organic honey flavor. I drink this about probably every night, just because it's really calming and soothing. So I like that a lot. The Paris one's really good too. I've only had it a couple of times though, but yeah, if you want to read that.
Yeah, we've got the character on this is infusion is a delicate blend of Courant, caramel, and citrus meant to arouse the senses. It's a black tea. Also has a vanilla flavor, some bergamot oil, and 60 milligrams of caffeine. So perfect afternoon cup. I'm excited.
I've got the Harney and Sons chocolate flavored black tea. It says, for its character, skip the dessert and go straight for this delicious tea with its strong chocolate flavor. I love how it's got stats on the side: briskness 2, aroma 4, body 2. And then its ingredients: black tea, chocolate flavor, vanilla flavor, contains natural flavors. 40 to 60 milligrams of caffeine.
All right.
So
We'll have to compare that to
Yeah.
Dr. Quick's chocolate nib
oh yeah,
black tea. I can't remember exactly what it was.
I think that's the same
And you-
one.
Is it?
Yeah,
Smaller.
but smaller
smaller box?
container because
Gotcha.
I wasn't paying all that
You
money.
may know this, but when you mentioned that the Paris has bergamot, in this country, we call it Earl Grey.
Yeah.
But
that's true.
in Europe, if you ask for bergamot, that's what they bring you.
Paris tea?
No, it's Earl Grey.
Oh, okay. So you say
It's
bergamot.
bergamot.
Okay.
I
I'll
didn't know
have
that was
to-
the same
to
thing.
remember
Yeah.
that, yeah. I hadn't either. Yeah. Cup of Paris for For good old time's sake. I do want to go back to France now.
I brought back some
Yeah.
tea from France,
my
actually.
God.
It's tough to find a better reason than a chamber choir tour to go back.
Yeah. You don't need a reason.
I know, that's true.
You want
That's
to pass this
true.
down to Matt?
Yeah.
You just need the money. That's the
Yeah.
I'll
I'll see if my mom wants to go.
I'll just be just randomly, I'll just be sitting around. I'm like, oh my God, I wish I was there right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, our agency that we worked with for planning the trip, shortly before the trip, I got an email from the head of that agency who said, if you happen to pass a shop called Mariage Frère, make sure you go in. And I saw one and went in, and it was just this wall of different teas in cases that you could smell, you know, what they were.
Oh, yeah.
There were dozens and dozens of different teas, and so I brought back a couple. And unfortunately, it's hard to find that stuff here, but
Oh
it
my
was
gosh.
really good tea.
And it seems like throughout Europe, I'm not totally sure, but yeah, they have those open box tea shops. You walk in, it's all loose leaf everywhere, and just aromas they take you over.
Yep.
I found one place in D.C. when my sister lived there. It was called Capital Teas, but it's a much smaller scale for sure. But it's good bulk tea as well.
I believe Mr. Quick is
Where
where he lived in New Jersey is very near Harney and Sons or something like that.
I wish I could say this was a joke, but over the winter break, he just texted me a photo of him, like he was visiting the Harney and Sons main like store, and they were even like giving him like a quick little sampling bag to take of a flavor they hadn't even released yet.
Well,
Exclusive member.
Yeah.
regular customer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To say. Maybe if you're English, you just get the front ticket when you walk in the door.
You get
They just
all the
know.
privilege.
They know.
Yeah. Like, this guy knows tea. Yeah, I really like the Paris Cup. It's still lightly brewing, or at a light brew point, but it's really good.
It is
I
very
think-
nice.
This one's gonna be the first black tea I've had.
Really?
Yeah.
Ever?
Well,
ever?
we probably have.
Really? Ever?
For context, I'm not a big tea guy.
Okay. Well,
He's getting
welcome.
around.
Have we told you the lore of why this whole podcast started?
Well, he was telling me.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
had briefly,
Yeah.
but it'd be fun. It'd be fun to
For context, for those listening for the first time, this all started during the oh so wonderful France trip we keep referencing. So we do owe you a lot, Doc. We owe him all the royalties for this. So basically, what happened was I had gotten sick somehow. Throat was hurting. I was like constant fever, and so me and a bunch of the other students, choir members, we would all just hang out on the patios of the hotel we were staying at. And one night, me and Jimmy, the hotel rooms had tea in them, so we made a cup of tea for each of us, and we then just started brainstorming a podcast idea, and then the rest is history.
I had to do a lot of convincing to get Nolan to try the tea. That was
'Cause I am-
one of the first parts.
I have the
It was a
filthy
big plan throughout the day.
American taste of if it doesn't have a strong flavor, me no like it. I've learned since that tea isn't about the actual flavor of the water, but rather the aroma.
There's like a balance there, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, because you can have like it just depends on the tea. I mean, you have a very like nice tasting tea, or you can have Lipton tea, or
It doesn't have. It needs high fructose corn syrup. I think
Yeah.
is the-
Yeah.
If you get hold of a catalog from Harney and Sons, they break it down into different sort of major categories. So there are the green teas, that people think of as being almost medicinal, that is so good for your health. There's black tea. There is oolong, which
Oolongs
is
are good.
often associated with Asian teas and so
Yeah.
forth. And some of them are sort of fruit flavored, and then there's some that are smoky. And if you haven't experienced one of those, the first one of those I had was something called Lapsang Souchong. And it really is like you're going to a barbecue or something. And I have known people who've actually brewed Lapsang souchong and used it as a marinade for steak because it imparts a smoky taste
I
to
wonder
it.
what kind of wood, or I guess it's probably not wood, but
When they
tea
dry the
that
tea
they
leaves, I guess,
toast or-
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very strong, and it's certainly not everybody's taste.
Yeah.
When I make a cup of that, my wife leaves the room.
Really?
But-
Is it so? It's really aromatic too, just
Oh,
outside
yeah.
of the cup.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Huh.
But it's fascinating
Try
how
that.
much variety there really is.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, tea has been drank for millennia.
Yeah.
Like before written history, potentially.
Yeah.
I think the ancient story is it's like a tea or a what is it? A cherry blossom fell into a hot cup of water or something, or a cup of water in a Japanese.
I had to do a collage of all the podcasts we made last semester, and I included that segment. And one of my friends just looks at me while we're at like this big award ceremony for the School of Journalism, and they look at me and they're like, "Nolan, do you know if that's true or not?" I'm like, "No, me and Jimmy are just having fun."
Yeah, it's just the
And they were
lore
like,
of tea. Yeah.
"Do you know this is my friend who's a Japanese major?" She's like, "That's not right. That's not right."
Oh, dang.
Actually.
Oh, what was the? Did you get the scoop?
No.
Oh, okay.
She was just like, I don't think that's right. And I'm like, that's what we found on Wikipedia.
It's a story. It's
Yeah.
out there somewhere.
You can trust anything on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
It's lore.
Wikipedia
Yeah.
wouldn't lie.
Doesn't
No.
need to be historically accurate. But yeah.
So I feel like this is like the one key piece of the Dr. Castleberry lore that I feel like we're missing out on. So how did you get into music? That's my big question.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good one.
Well, I guess anybody who grows up in a church with a lot of music, you're exposed to it all the time. And I liked it, but I didn't think of myself as a musician. It wasn't something I studied. When I got to high school, I took some piano lessons. But it was really singing in a youth choir and having a conductor who was a very good singer. And one day there was a solo, and a buddy of mine named Alan sang the solo, and I just turned around and listened to this, and I thought, wow, how is he singing like that? And it turned out he had been studying voice for about 6 months, and this gorgeous sound. And so I went to the conductor and I said, I'd like to do that too. And so he took me on and started working with me. And so I was 15 when I had my first vocal instruction. And when I got to college, I wanted to continue to study voice, but I had no intention of majoring in music or doing music as a career. But when I auditioned to take voice lessons, they somehow managed to thrust me into a music theory class. And within a semester, they had sort of won me over. So
Wow.
my English major went out the window and music came in.
Wow. So you were writing before that? Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to write.
Yeah.
And honestly, in academia, I have done a lot of writing over the years. So
Yeah.
it wasn't that I
Go hand in
abandoned
hand.
that, but
Right.
I mean, I don't know who your listeners are for this, but wherever you guys are in your studies, I think one of the questions that I asked myself was, where is it that I want to spend my time? And as a student in college, I found that every day, every chance I had, I was over at the music building, either in the practice room or going to recitals and that sort of thing. Even though it wasn't required, that was where I wanted to be. And I was in a class of 18th century British poetry, and I was finding that was really hard work to get myself to do that. If it had only been writing, probably I would have stayed in English, but I wasn't drawn to literature the way I was to music. And not that I feel less affection for literature. I just, where's your heart? What draws you? And pay attention to that, because that's what you're going to be spending your time doing.
Heck yeah.
And if you don't love it, I feel bad for you.
Yeah. So when did you how'd you make the transition from being a singer? Because I mean, you were a voice major for your first degree.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you transition to being a conductor?
Well, even as an undergraduate, I was fascinated with ensembles and conducting, and sang under a really wonderful conductor And watching him work made me want those skills. And so when I finished college, most people don't major in conducting as an undergraduate. You take a few conducting courses, but when I auditioned for graduate school, I auditioned both in voice and conducting because I wasn't sure which direction was going to happen. I was fortunate to be able to continue to study voice and do a lot of singing in opera and oratorio and so forth at the same time that I was pursuing conducting as my degree program. So my master's was in conducting, my doctorate was in conducting, but I continued to develop my singing all the way through school. Wow. And I think that has served me well because in working with choirs, I have students who tell me they learn as much about singing from choir rehearsal as they did in their voice lessons.
I agree.
It's an important part of what you can bring to students.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so you've been in the choir the whole time since 15.
Yeah.
To now. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. It's just
Oh, Lord, that's a long time.
a lot of good time, though. You have experiences a lot of people only wish for.
Yeah, well, we did a concert in Charleston on Sunday, and there were actually some singers from my very first chamber choir who attended that concert.
Wow.
So that was kind of cool.
Dang, maybe I didn't have enough staying power to get in that picture at the end there. I didn't realize there were so many
And I
original
think they're
members.
actually starting a web page.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Like a Facebook group, or
Yeah,
is it? Okay.
Facebook. Yeah.
Perfect.
I know Facebook is for old timers, but
I'm joining immediately.
Yeah. I'll give you the info.
Okay. Yeah. Once it comes out,
Mhm.
it'd be fun to stay in touch. Maybe we could do a reunion concert sometime.
Hey,
You know,
I'm all in.
just bring out the
Reunion
words.
Tour de France.
Why not? Why not?
Everyone needs a vacation every once in a while.
Seriously.
Actually, now over here, this part of the university, you have contact with Eric Himes, right? Do you?
I have never heard that name before.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well-
Eric's great.
Eric
friend.
works over here. Eric's wife, Bethany, was in one of my first chamber choirs, and her daughter was in chamber choir.
Really?
Oh, yeah,
Allison.
second Allison
Yeah.
Himes.
Yeah, she was.
went
she
on
was,
the trip.
She was in France with us.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so second generation.
Right. That's so cool.
Speaking of like knowing people who were in chamber choir, there's always this. I always get this, especially the previous semesters when I was in chamber choir. I always had this weird roundabout moment feeling because my own high school choir director my first high school choir director was actually a student under you when he was here at Marshall, and then of course I come here and yeah.
Who was that?
Dan. We've talked
Danny
about this.
Gray.
Yeah, Dan.
Yeah. Okay.
Danny G. Yeah.
Yeah, Danny G.
That's what everyone in show choir called him.
That's awesome.
Mine was awesome.
Who was that?
Daniel Gray.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
and he was from a school that had a number of students come over to study music at Marshall. Over the years, it was kind of a pipeline from that school
Nice.
over here. So.
Was that Cowboy Midland then? I'm trying to think of
No,
where.
No, I
no,
think
this
he was
over
from
in Maryland.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Maryland.
Yeah.
Oh, is that where Gabriel Gray also
Gabe
came
Gray.
from?
Gabe Gray was from the same school.
That's cool.
Mhm.
I didn't know that.
They had all been in a high school program with a wonderful woman named T.C. Mazzio, and much loved conductor over there. And she liked what she was hearing about student experiences here, and that's kind of
That's
the
a
way these
ticket.
things happen. Somebody hears that they're having a good experience somewhere, and other students decide to go to the same place. So we had a bit of a pipeline for a number of years to that program.
That's awesome.
So.
Yeah.
Well, I could go all day on this,
Yeah.
but I'm going to
Where
have
are
to
we
teach
at?
some more here today.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. About 15 on.
Yeah. So, would you like to give a review though of the tea you're drinking, real quick, or?
Well, I'm drinking my sort of regular brew, the Paris tea, and it's wonderful. There are other teas I've liked a lot that I'll drink, through one box and be ready for a change. Paris, I never get tired of. I can drink that all the time. I have another one that Harney and Sons makes called Victorian London Fog. There's one called Tower of London. Both of those are really nice, but Paris is kind of my go-to.
Yeah. everyone else. I
Cheers.
like. I'll give the black tea I'm drinking a really solid 8 out of 10. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Once again, it's one of those like it's just really hot, so like my taste buds are like scalding, but so it's like I like in the whiff of the chocolate every time I take a sip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I can smell it from here. It's nice.
Yeah, I really like that one, too. This chamomile, I'm drinking I drink it like every day, so I'm getting a little bit tired of it. But I really wanted chamomile again today, so I'm just gonna give it 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Nice.
I like it.
Nice. Yeah, the Paris tea gets at like a 8.5. I just want a drop of honey. And it'd be a perfect 10.
Honey makes everything better. For
Yeah,
sure.
I love black tea and honey.
Yeah.
It's good. David, you've been a huge inspiration to so
Yeah.
many students, and I just wanted to say thank you from all of us here at the podcast. Honestly, we wouldn't be here without you in that tour, and I wouldn't be the music educator I am today without your
You're one of
guidance
my-
and passion. So
Well, you
thank you
guys-
so much.
You guys are a lot of what has made it so fun for me.
One of the best professors I've had.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
Thank
for
you.
sure.
hands
you.
down.
Appreciate that.
Wrap it up with the theme song.
Yeah. So thank you for listening. Thank you once again to Dr. David Castleberry for coming out. And this has been Tea Time. Wait, 3, 2, 1. Tea Time with Matt, Jimmy, and Nolan.
I always forget